Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank y'all for being here. We will get started right at about 12 noon, which is about 1 minute away. So I really appreciate you being here. So really quick, as people are coming in, let me just say welcome. And we are going to be starting right at 12 noon, and it is 12 noon. But if you could just put in the chat for me, like where you are from, tell me a little bit about yourself, your title, that will be great as we get started here. And I'm very excited about this topic because I truly believe that there are simple ways that your board can raise $5,000 each in 30 days. And I'm so excited to be able to share that with you. So having said that, I am going to share my screen and we are going to get started here just in a few minutes. So we are sharing the screen, and what I would like to say, are you seeing a screen that has black frame around it, or are you just seeing the PowerPoint presentation? If someone can come off silent and let me know that.
Don't be afraid. PowerPoint.
You see the PowerPoint, perfect. That's what I want you to see. Last time it was screening with the black frame around it, and that was wrong. So I want to make sure that I do it right this time. So we're going to get started here. Thank you so much for jumping on and letting me know that. And we're going to go into slideshow because it is a lot of information, and it is something that I want to allow for Q&A at the end. So are we still seeing the same screen?
Presenters mode.
I'm gonna switch it up. I think you might be seeing the wrong one.
Yes.
Yes, perfect. So here we go. Let's get into it. So a simple way board members can raise $5,000 each in 30 days. You are inspiring and engaging your board to be a bigger part of the fundraising efforts. And I am Sabrina, just so you know, and I'll get into a little bit more detail about who I am. But let's start off with some hard facts and some hard truths. That no one joins your board, your nonprofit board, to ask their friends and family for money. So we all start kind of in that spot, knowing where their mentality is. That is going to kind of relieve and allow you to process that information, right? So knowing that that is the headspace, that no one joins to ask their friends and family for money, how are you going to get them to that point where they are asking friends, family, and even strangers sometimes for money? So what are we going to do to get them there? So let's kind of talk about it. When you provide board members with the tools they need to be successful and put them in the proper role, you will dramatically increase the likelihood of getting their participation. So you got to provide the tools, and you have to know what roles, the proper role that they are going to serve. And we're going to talk about some of the tools, and we also are going to talk about the proper roles, because I feel like oftentimes that when we are talking about fundraising, people automatically go to making the ask. And that is not always the case. Fundraising is a whole process, and we're going to get into that so that we can get a visual picture and understand what each step in fundraising means, what each process mean and how your board members can get involved in that process. And then what I know you're here for is, Sabrina, give me those ways that they can raise 5,000 each. I actually have 10 examples for you that you can go out and implement today if you so choose. So before I get into that, I just want you to know that I use this approach for over 15 years as a CEO of a nonprofit organization, and I increased my annual operating budget from $750,000 to $2.5 million, and I completed a $12 million comprehensive capital campaign, started and grew an endowment to $500,000, and had a 180-day cash reserve. And my organization was located along the Mexico-Texas border in the third poorest county in the United States. So I promise you, if you equip your board with the right tools and put them in the right roles, then you too can grow your organization budget. Today, what we're going to be talking about and what you will leave this webinar with is understanding the board role in fundraising, understanding why board members consider fundraising the dirty F word, learning what board members want from staff. And if you are a new nonprofit and you're like, what staff? You're the founder, then you're considered that staff, so they can fundraise easily and effectively. And you're going to get step-by-step tips on how your board members can raise 5,000 each in 30 days. Remember, I have 10 tips for you, 10 ways that can happen. So you're in the right place. Today's training is going to be perfect for you if you want to get your board members to help with fundraising. Get your board member to listen to you about fundraising, because how many times have you sat in that room and you talked about needing money and fundraising and you get the blank stares back at you, or you get what do you call it? Head nods, but you get no action behind it. And how to get your board to follow through on what they say they will do. Because you get the head nods and you get people saying they're going to do stuff at the board meeting, and then you leave the board meeting and nothing happens, and you come back to the next board meeting and you're talking about the exact same thing. It's very frustrating. So we're going to get you off of that frustrating hamster wheel that sometimes we get on. So first of all, I want to say that you're worth it. I start these right at 12 noon, and I promise not to take more than an hour, usually about 45 minutes. So I want you to do a couple of things for me. I want you to close your email and close the 20 browser windows that you currently have open. I want you to close the door, and I want you to ask the kids to not kill themselves or each other in the next hour. Okay? Because I need you to focus. You are worth it. The time that you're investing in this is worth it. So focus, okay? And before we get started, I want you to know that the presentation is being recorded. You can chat any questions that you have, and I will answer them in a formal Q&A at the end of the presentation. And to ensure a seamless webinar, check your internet connection. And again, close all your tabs. I am a multitasker too. I understand you have those tabs open. You see an email come through. It might distract you, or you're Googling something, or you're responding to another email. Close all the other tabs so that you're not tempted to do that. So let me introduce myself really quick. I am Sabrina, and I studied political science and public administration. I obtained a nonprofit management certification from Harvard Business School. And from the last 25 years, I worked in the nonprofit industry. I've done direct services, I've done operations, and I've done executive leadership. In 2018, I was diagnosed with cancer and felt that I needed to retire. And again, people ask me, why do you put that in your introduction slide? Well, I put it in my introduction slide because that is the whole reason I started my company, Supporting World Hope. I started my company to support executives, fundraisers like yourself who are stressed out, who are overwhelmed, who feel alone, and they know that they want to grow their mission. They know that they want to grow their organization, but it just doesn't seem to happen sometimes. Or it happens and you're putting a lot of energy and a lot of stress on yourself. And so I don't want what happened to you to happen to me. And so I do these free webinars. I have a free resource library. I have a Facebook group where I provide different live coaching. I do have courses that I sell, all those things in support of you, because I want to minimize your stress. So in minimizing your stress, since I've retired, I've been helping small nonprofit staff and boards build relationships that convert into more donations. So what I do is I do workshops, I do board retreats, I do webinars, I do coaching, and I do consulting. So I'm using everything that I've learned to get you there faster and hopefully without the same amount of stress that I endured. So as you're sitting here on this webinar, there's some headspace that I want you to be in. I want you to imagine a day when all your fundraising systems are in place and you're raising money even when you're sleeping. I want you to imagine a day when someone comes up to you and says, I love the work that your nonprofit is doing, and I like to write you a check right now. I want you to imagine a day when fundraising has become easy and it's actually fun, and you always have enough money to fund your mission. So here it goes. The one thing that I know, here's the one thing that I know, and this is something I really want you to listen to. You must support and educate your board towards fundraising. So again, you have to support and educate your board towards fundraising. Oftentimes, the biggest obstacle to board fundraising is their fear of the unknown. It does not matter that they are professionals coming in from the banking industry, or they're architects or lawyers or what have you. They still are unfamiliar with the fundraising process, and it's a fear for them. Anytime that any of us branches off into something new, we become fearful. And so many don't understand how to fundraise or understand the process. And so it's the job of the executive director, the chief executive officer, the founder to educate the board. And if you're not educated, you have to educate yourself on this. And that's why I really appreciate that you showed up for this webinar, because that's a part of the education process in educating yourself. And so because of these fears and because of not knowing the process, board members see fundraising as the dirty F word, right? They immediately go to, oh my God, I have to ask people for money. And here are some of the things that they tell themselves. They tell themselves, and you've heard this before, as soon as you start talking about fundraising in your board meetings, they tell themselves, you know, I don't know any rich people. I've heard that over and over again. Other people say, I don't like asking my friends or strangers for money. Some say they think it's going to feel like begging. I've had board members say, okay, well, it's time for me to go out and begging again. And I correct them every time. You're not begging. You're giving people the opportunity to invest in a mission that they are passionate about. And so you have to change that mentality for them. Some people just don't like to hear no. But I always say that even when someone says no, it just means no, not at this time, or no, not this program, or no, not until I talk to my spouse, or no, whatever the reason. Every no is not a final no. Or some people just say, I'm uncomfortable asking for money. And that is not unheard of in our culture, right? Talking about money, asking for money is a little bit taboo in our culture. So all of these things are legitimate quotes that people say to themselves. We're going to help them get over that. How are we going to do that? First, by acknowledging that fundraising is more than asking. It is more than asking for money. You have a donor-centered process. It's about, thanking a donor. It's about advocating. It's about cultivating. It's about learning about the donor. And then ultimately it's about giving. But it is more than asking. For sure, fundraising is more than asking. I put this here because even some of you that are here sitting in this room, in this Zoom room right now, you consider fundraising ultimately asking for money, and that is not the case. And so I am going to share with you what exactly is fundraising and how many stages or steps that are involved in fundraising. And so this is to give you a visual. So this is what it means to fundraise. Step one is to identify people who can participate, who have the affinity and the ability to give to your organization. And then how are you going to determine that? You're going to qualify them. Are they passionate about the mission? Do they have the financial means to give? You're going to know about all of that before you even start to cultivate the donor. And cultivation means simply getting to know them, inviting them in. It's the process of starting the relationship. And then once you do that, then you make the ask. And then stage 5 is really the process, waiting to see if they're going to give or not. And then once they do give or not give, you go into stewardship, that is recognition and thanking. And then you start the stages all over again. So for my visual people out there, this is kind of the stages in fundraising. All of this map is fundraising. And so only about 5% of it is asking for money. But yet we spend a lot of time preaching to our board about asking for money when there are 5 other steps that they can get involved in. That is still fundraising. So here are some truths about board members and fundraising. Not every board member will ask, nor should they ask for money. And that's okay. Out of a board of 21, it fluctuated between 15 and 21. I had maybe 2 or 3 people that were comfortable with asking for money. So that was okay. 2 or 3 is great, actually. Some people don't have anyone on their board that is comfortable with asking for money. So what do you do when no board member is comfortable with asking for money? We're going to talk about that. So every board member should help with fundraising in some way, but it doesn't need to be asking. And all board members appreciate clear, specific goals and guidelines. The more specific, tangible, and concrete you can be with your expectations, the more successful they will be. So, did you talk about fundraising and the recruitment process? Are you talking about fundraising after this conversation, hopefully in a different way? But you're providing them with the tools. They know exactly how much they need to raise. They know exactly how they're going to raise it. They know what model we're following. They have the emails to support that. They have the graphics to support that. They have the scripts on what to say. All of those things come in place when you're trying to make it better for your board members to fundraise. And you have to remember that these are volunteers and that all board members are busy and they're short on time, just like you. So the less time you request, the more likely they will follow through. So keep these things in mind. So let's kind of talk about how board members can participate in the fundraising process. Remember, it is a process. It's not just about asking for money. So board members can participate in the fundraising process by opening the door to the eventual ask. That means they help identify potential donors. They build relationships with those prospects. They generate interest in the organization. They show prospects what the organization is all about. They share the history, the programs, the finances, etc. Door openers is a great role for a board member in a fundraising process. I'm going to tell you, one of my board members who raised the most money never asked for any money. She said, I do not feel comfortable asking for money. So, don't ask me to do that. And I had a choice about how I approached that. I could have said, well, you're not, good for this board. Or I could say, what are you willing to do? And so I chose to say, what are you willing to do? And she was willing to be a door opener. She was willing to open up her Rolodex for us older people and introduce us to different pockets that she knew. And so one of the pockets that she knew, she was a banker, believe it or not, but she didn't work like she wasn't the bank president or anything like that. She worked in the back room. She was the one researching fraud for the bank, making sure that, the bank was in compliance at the federal level. So you kind of get what type of person I'm talking about. They like the numbers, they're to themselves, they're introvert. Well, she was my biggest fundraiser because what did she do? She introduced me to the owner of the bank. Not the bank president, but to the owner of the bank. And so built a relationship with the owner of the bank, in turn built a relationship with the bank president. The bank president served as my co-chair for my capital campaign, which raised $12 million. So we're already out the gate talking about $12 million that she helped raise. The bank itself gave $100,000 towards the capital campaign. And not only that, the bank, we got denied a capital grant, a $250,000 capital grant from the Maybe Foundation. Write that down for people who are in a capital campaign, the Maybe Foundation, MABEE, out of Oklahoma. And they initially told us no. And I was devastated. And I was sharing this information with the board. And as a result, and with the capital campaign committee, and as a result, the bank president said, well, why don't we fly down there and have a conversation with them, see what the problem was. And I was like, oh, okay, let's book some flights. And he's like, no, we're not booking flights. The bank has a private plane. And so we took a private plane to go to the Maybe Foundation, and we walked out of there with a $250,000 gift. So again, $12 million capital campaign, $100,000 from the bank, $250,000 from the Maybe Foundation. I got to fly in a private plane, which I had never done before, which was a new experience for me. And that's all from her just opening the door. And it gets even better. The bank appoints 2 members to our board of directors every year. And each of those board members are responsible for raising $5,000 each. So let's talk about that over a 10-year period. So she was a door opener, never asked for a dime. But was she fundraising? Yes, she was. My job as the executive was to build that relationship and keep it going. And that's just some of the benefits. We won't even talk about some of the marketing benefits and leveraging that relationship at the bank. So door openers are very critical. They don't make the ask, but they lend their credibility to introduce you to the right people. And then from there, you build that relationship and you leverage that relationship to then raise money. The other part is cultivators. I love cultivation because it's true what they say, that people give to people. Donors want to trust and they want to like the individuals at the organizations that they support. And cultivation is about building relationships before you ask for money. They can connect the organization to cultivation by making personal contact with prospects. So what does that mean? That means they invite them in on a tour. That means they make phone calls to them and check in on them. That means that they might take a potential prospect out to lunch. I call it courting, just like in the dating phase, you know, that's when you're getting to know them. You're taking them out on dates. You're making phone calls to them. You're inviting them into your organization. You're inviting them in on a Zoom to answer and ask any questions that they have. You're just getting to know them. And board members can be great cultivators because there needs to be someone that is focused in on that person that you're trying to build a relationship with. And if they can just make 5 touches, and when I'm talking about touches, I mean calling them, taking them out for lunch, inviting them in on a tour, whatever those touches are, making those touches with that potential donor, that is going to build that relationship and get them to the point where they are ready to be asked, right? So board members can participate in the fundraising process by opening the door again to the eventual ask. And that's where we're at right now. Askers, right? I always feel like I'm cursing when I say that. I need to put an emphasis on the right way. But what happens is that when board members actually talk about being a sidekick, they are coming to the meeting to lend credibility to the organization, to the asking process. They might not be the one to make the ask, but they are there with you because they are a volunteer and they lend credibility to the visit. So you're visiting with a potential donor, face-to-face ask, and the board member is there with you. As the staffer or the founder, you're there to talk about the organization and give facts and figures on the organization. The board member is there to lend credibility to the process and talk about why they volunteer and why they're passionate about the mission. But when it comes down to the ultimate ask, they might not feel comfortable doing the ultimate ask. So then that becomes the job of the executive director. And what you have to do is utter the phrase, will you consider a gift in the amount of $1,000 to support name of organization, right? And so did they participate in the process as a board member? Yes. They are lending their credibility to that meeting. And so it's always good to have a board member come in with you on the ask, even if it's to lend their credibility and you're going to be the one to ultimately ask the question. So it makes a difference when you have a board member there because they are a volunteer, and the donor will see that this volunteer is passionate enough to come on this meeting, and they believe in it enough to have this face-to-face meeting with me. So that's the role that they can play in the asking process when they are not comfortable actually making the ask. So thankers, this one I cannot stress enough as well. An organization's fundraising responsibilities are not over once it has received a donation from a donor. So the final stage of fundraising is stewardship, thanking the donor and maintaining a relationship that keeps the donor connected to the organization. So board members can send donors a thank you card or make a thank you call or let the donor know how their gift was appreciated and that it made a difference to the organization. You need board members that can serve as thankers. Why do you need that? Because 85% of donors say they do not give a repeat gift because they were not thanked. And if you have 2 to 3 board members or 1 board member that says, I will take care of that part, then you are ahead of the game, because the whole goal is you want to thank them properly so that when you go back and ask for a second gift or you go back and ask for an upgrade. Maybe they gave $500 and now you want them to give $1,000, that they feel well appreciated, that they know that you really appreciated the first gift. If you don't have someone doing thanking and doing it in a very positive way, then you are not going to get second gifts or third gifts. And what you're going to have to do is every time go out and get new donors, which costs you 3 times more than to really take care of the donors that you have. And so understand that. Again, board members can be door openers, they can be cultivators, they can be sidekicks at the ask meeting, and they can be thankers. So it's not just about asking for money. It's a whole process. So understand that process. Remember that visual that I gave you. So what do board members need from staff so they can fundraise easily and effectively? If you want your board members involved in fundraising, then you must help them. You have to equip them. You have to provide board education, and you have to share client stories. So how are you going to do that? Just a little bit of brief. You're going to do that during your board meeting, right? I always started every board meeting out with a client story. And anytime you can get your client to come into the board meeting, even better. That's called mission moment. For me, I happen to work with youth. And so I would have a youth come in. Actually, sometimes the younger, the better, because they're so sweet, or the older to get more specific. So have a youth come in if you work with youth or whatever your client situation is, and share their story. Give the board members opportunity to hear their story and to ask questions. We are a storytelling society. And so when you hear the stories, you're likely to retain them. And when your board members go out to talk about the organization, they're going to say, oh yeah, I remember little Janie coming in and she talked about this and how, if it wasn't for the organization that she would go home to an empty house, or this is the only time that she gets a meal after school, or whatever the situation is, they'll remember that story and they will be advocating and sharing that story. And providing board education. Every board meeting, I set aside about 15 minutes to 20 minutes to educate my board on some topic. So that's how you can equip them. You're going to make it easy for them. You're going to give them sample scripts. You're going to give them sample social media posts. You're going to give them sample letters and emails. The more that you can do to have it already done for them, and they just have to cut and paste or read from a script, the more you're going to get out of them. I know not only did I serve as a CEO, but I also serve on a board of directors right now. And my job is to get this board that is totally new to fundraise. And so I provide them with social media posts. I create the graphics. I say, here you go. All you got to do is cut and paste this, put it on your social media, or cut and paste this, put it in your text, and send out the graphic with it. That's all you need to do. And that they appreciate that. You have to be accountable. You have to hold board members accountable for what they say they will do. So what does that mean? You're sitting in a board meeting and Janie says that she's going to do this, or she'll reach out to, okay, I can reach out to Susie to secure that meeting, right? So your expectation can't be that she's going to remember after this board meeting, right? So what do you need to do? You need to be taking notes during that board meeting, and you need to say, okay, send Janie an email. Hey, Janie, I know that you said that you were going to reach out to Susie. Let me know if you need my support in any of this. If you need something from it, let me know. Right? Before the board meeting the next month, or how often you meet, you reach out to Janie again. Hey, Janie, I didn't hear anything back about Susie. Were you able to secure that meeting? And Janie's going to be like, oh, crap, I forgot to do that. Let me do that. Right? So you have to hold them accountable. And sometimes does that sound like a little babysitting? Yes, but remember again what I said. They're volunteers. They're very busy. Not to discount the fact that you're not busy, but sometimes that's what you have to do. I had a board member that says the squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? He served on several boards. He served on several boards. And so he responded from the squeaky wheel. So sometimes you have to squeak, right? And you have to be explicit. Be very explicit when recruiting board members about expectation. And you have to have a board expectation agreement in place. And you need to talk about that at recruitment time, not once they get on your board. You need to talk about it at recruitment time. You need to talk about it during board orientation, and you need to bring it up during the board meetings every so often, because we forget. So have a system in place where maybe every quarter you're talking about the board expectation, and you make it fun. You know, you say, for my board, we would track and everybody would get a point when they attended something or get a point when they raised money. And we had certain goals. And for those who reached the goal, we had a board member that would take them out for a very nice steak dinner. So you have to figure out something to make it fun, to keep track of it. And my board actually came up with that tracking system themselves. It wasn't something that I put on them, but they wanted to make it competitive because they were a group of competitive people. So let's talk about some of the things while you're here, the techniques to raise money. So now you understand everybody's role. They can be a door opener, they can be a cultivator, they could be a sidekick at the ask, or they can be a thanker. But let's talk about some of the things that you can do. So each of these techniques can raise a lot or a little, depending on who is doing the organizing. For example, a house party in one organization can raise $500 in one evening, while in another it can raise $100,000. So every technique is one that I have seen firsthand to be effective. And when I say be effective, they've raised $5,000 or more. So the first one that I like to talk about is going to be a phone-a-thon. And you're going to get a phone-a-thon manual at the end of this presentation, so you don't have to start from scratch. But a phone-a-thon, you can do it over 3 days course in a row with your board members, Monday through Wednesday of a week. You get all your board members together at the organization's office or one of their offices at 5 p.m. Practice how you're going to ask for donations on the phone, provide some pizza, refreshments, make it a party. A little food and drink can go a long way in supporting the right atmosphere for fundraising. You divide up the list of members, donors, clients, patrons, neighbors, or whatever list that you have. You call them. You take a break every 45 minutes to swap stories to encourage each other, and then you go home at 7:30. I did this when we were doing a capital campaign for our organization, and we raised a significant amount of money because people want to give. We just haven't asked them, right? And so this is a very easy one to do. So the other, number 2 is together a board member and executive director can ask the government foundation or a government foundation or corporate funders to renegotiate grants and contracts and agreements. And even if you don't have contracts and agreement, that means you and the board members can go and ask government foundations and corporations for contracts and agreements. There's a lot of contracts and agreements out there. So everyone knows the economy is in a turmoil right now, and it won't be a surprise to your funders if your grants, contracts, and donations are down. Ask for a meeting, for example, with a county funder, or see whether they will be willing to have you provide, fewer shelter nights or fewer senior meals if that's the organization that you work with, without reducing your contract payment. So if you, or fewer service or fewer members without reducing your contract payment. So basically you're providing the same service, but to lesser people. Tell a foundation funder that the grant they gave you to hire the second librarian needs to be spent just to keep the first librarian. So share with them what is happening. And many funders appreciate the significance of board leadership on these matters. And remember, obtaining an agreement for a lower number of services for the same money is often as good as getting more money. So go back to the table and have with your board members and see if you can negotiate some changes to your agreements. Number 3, board members send out a letter to a minimum of 10 friends and families explaining why they volunteer their time to serve on the board, and that they are in a 30-day fundraising campaign, and they ask for a specific donation amount, no less than $500. And you be sure to include a brochure or one-pager about the organization and a return envelope. And then after 2 weeks, you follow up with a phone call on those who have not responded. And you give the list of the names of the people you mail to the staff and ask them to notify you immediately if anyone donates. So basically, they sit down, they write that letter to 10 people. So you do the math, 10 times 500, that's $5,000. And basically you follow up. And so you put in a little thought to who are these 10 people? Can they afford to give the $500? Who in my friends and family list will do this, and do it just because they're in support of me and the organization that I'm volunteering for. What does that mean for the executive director? That means you got to come up with the letter, right? You got to come up with the letter. Here's exactly what you say. Here it is. Send this out. Make some tweaks if you want to, but I have given you a starter, and send it to your board members and ask them to do it. And then you follow up with them, of course. Did you mail your letters? One of the things that you can do is, just for accountability's sake, is have them bring the letters to you and say, I'll provide the stamps. That way you know who has sent out their letters or not. And when they don't bring the letters to you, you know which board members that you need to follow up with, right? So you have a list of, okay, Janie gave me her 10, I mail those out. Sabrina gave me her 10, I mail those out. And you can start following up with your board members on that. Very simple, very easy. Number 4, do board members work for companies with corporate match? Are they submitting the form? If your board members have access to corporate match money for their donations, you are literally leaving money on the table by not asking them for their match form. So if your board, all board members should be contributing to your organization. And if they're contributing to your organization and they work for a company that can match their gift, you're basically doubling it. So you need to find out if your board members work for an organization or a company that will match their gift, and then say, let me help you fill out that form. Share that form with me and I will help you fill it out, right? Or you might even just have to research, hey, did you know that, I'm just pulling this out, this doesn't mean it's true. Did you know that Walmart will match a gift every time an employee gives to the organization? So you might have to do the research for them. They might not even know. How many times we go into HR meetings or hear meetings and we don't pay attention to the information. And so you might have to do it for them. Also, have board members investigate getting a gift or grant from their company. Many companies have corporate giving programs which give priority to organizations where their employees volunteer. Ask board members to research possible grants or gifts from their companies. Now you're asking them to do it, but I would do it as a backup. But usually when you're asking them, you just say, hey, can you check with your company and see if they provide corporate giving, whether that's either through a grants program with the company, or they might have an employee giving campaign. There are some companies have employee giving campaigns. Or some companies might have actual grant applications, or some companies go through their marketing department and get a sponsorship. But every board member works for a company, and that company should be supporting your organization. And you just need to find out, what is the process for your company to support my organization? Number 6, schedule a house party. These are actually, house parties are one of my favorite events. I did a lot of these as a CEO, and they helped raise a lot of money for my organization. So you schedule a house party or a small event to ask for donations. You invite 10 to 20 people. You let them know that it's a fundraiser. If in person, you notice I said if in person, because this is a great event to take virtual. You have food at the event that's donated, or you have someone prepare the food for the dinner. Oftentimes I would identify a host to host it in their home, and they would provide all the food as a part of that. And the hosts that I would get to do it would be board members and or some of my major donors. I had them in a number of homes, in a number of homes, businesses. I've done some virtual for clients right now. And on the last one that we did, we raised about, I believe we raised about $40,000. So this can be this is one that can be great because you can host as many house parties as board members that you have. So each board member gets to host a house party and invite 30 people to get yourself 10 there. And so Janie can host a house party virtually. Sabrina can host a house party virtually. And the goal is to have each house party make $5,000 to $10,000. And if you do 4 of those over the course of a couple of months or 3 months or 4 months, that's money for your organization. And they're pretty simple. You keep them short, about 30 minutes, no more than 40 minutes. And you do a short presentation. You supply them with a envelope or a link, and you follow up after the dinner. And you also, there's some other components to it by having your clients there doing testimony and all of that. But this one is a great one that I have done myself over and over again. Number 7, give yourself a birthday party. Have birthday party or some other party. This is board members, and tell people that it's a fundraiser for the organization where you volunteer as a board member. Have a donation box at the door or food or food table, and have a volunteer sit there and ask people in a friendly way for contributions. And you don't have to make a pitch. You just thank people for coming and making a donation to something that is important to you. So this is, again, you're not having a party right now. Well, actually, that's untrue. We're doing a virtual birthday party for a friend, and you could make this virtual and provide a link. Say, you know what, in lieu of a gift, I'm asking that everybody makes a contribution to this organization, and here's a link to our donation page. They're actually delivering us birthday kits, and we're going to have the hat and everything. And so a board member could very well do this virtually. At a board meeting, here's another one, number 8. At a board meeting, bring a list of the organization's 30 biggest donors. And at the meeting, divide them up amongst the board members. Call to get an in-person appointment with each donor to explain the organization's situation and to ask for a donation. At the appointment, ask for a donation that is twice as large as the previous donation. So you say, we really appreciate the $500 you donated last year. Would you consider doubling that gift and making a $1,000 gift this year? And there is, you have them, again, if you're going to do this one, you have a script ready for them about how they're going to ask for the meeting, exactly what they're going to say. And then you go from there. Number 9, ask all board members and anyone else that you know to post an appeal to their own Facebook using peer-to-peer fundraising, saying something like, I'm a volunteer for this organization, and we're on a 30-day blitz to raise needed funds for, and name a specific project. This one, you do need to say a specific project. Since mine is youth background, I always go to that. So you might say, we want to raise money for a computer lab, or for computers for our kids, because everybody understands that challenge of remote learning and not having computers. Or you want to raise money for washers and dryers for my shelter, whatever it is. And it does need to be something very specific that people can visualize. And then you ask, can you help me reach my goal by giving a contribution? And you can use software, any software that does peer-to-peer fundraising, like Give Lively, there's Kindful out there. And these are all free peer-to-peer fundraising platforms. I actually have a blog that I did called 12 free softwares for peer-to-peer fundraising. And you can look for that on my website. But basically, you're having people set up fundraising pages for you. So it's more than one, it's your board member and several other people setting up these fundraising pages for you with a minimum goal. And you can say, I want everybody to raise $500, right? I've done this. I've been a part of a number of peer-to-peer fundraising ask for different organizations. Actually, I shared this with another organization and they raised, I think it was $12,000 is what that board member raised because they had some roof repairs that they needed to get done at the organization. And so based on that peer-to-peer, they raised like $12,000. And then number 10, ask your biggest donor to make a challenge grant. So and then you can share it out there. So we need your help to raise some special money right away. Would you consider making a gift of say $20,000 contingent on raising $20,000 within 30 days? That would help motivate us on the board as well as the people we ask. So find someone that would do a matching gift. It doesn't have to be 20,000. It could be 5,000. It could be 10,000. But the whole goal is you have to match that within 30 days. And if you have that challenge, then it's going to motivate your board members to do that letter or to do that peer-to-peer campaign because they're going to be doubling the money. And that's something you can even share in that process. That's something you can even share in that process of raising more money. So I hope this helps because today I promised you that you would have an understanding of the board role in fundraising. And so I hope that you have a better understanding of that. Again, door openers, cultivators, sidekick at the ask, thankers, understand why board members consider fundraising the dirty F word because they immediately go to, I got to ask for money, and that's not the case. What board members want from staff so they can fundraise easily and effectively. Again, they want the tools. They want as much as the fill in the blank information as you can. They want the follow up because they're in the meetings and they're saying it and their intent is to do it, but they forget. And so the better you are at that, the more you're going to get your boards engaged in that process. And they want step-by-step tips on how your board members can raise $5,000 each in 30 days. And I just gave you 10 ways that can happen. And I hope you pick one of those 10 ways to advance your cause. So again, the great news is you have two choices. You can do it yourself. You can do it yourself. You can Google all these templates. You can pick which one you want, trial and error. And you might be wishing you had done better by this time next year, or you can fast track your results and get the support and educate your board towards fundraising. And I really want to help with this. And I have set aside 72 hours to speak to you personally about how you can apply these ideas to your life today. So let's say if you want to do a house party, if you want to do a phone-a-thon, whatever it is that you want to do, I can help you with that. Whatever your biggest challenge is in fundraising and working with the board, I've seen them and I know how to overcome them. And together we can set up a breakthrough call where we're going to get you clear on 3 things. Number 1, we're going to get you clear on your goals and get you some clarity. We're going to overcome your biggest objection, because I've heard CEOs and executives say, my board members just won't help me. I've done everything that you said on this call. I've given them templates. We're going to help you overcome those biggest objections, and that I call it ants, the automatic negative thoughts that come into your head. And we're going to create a strategy to address your biggest challenge. And the cost is absolutely free. So who is this perfect for? It's perfect for you if you feel like your board won't listen to you. If you keep saying the same things over and over, and it's like talking to a brick wall. If you're wearing multiple hats, putting out fires, and you don't have time to work on fundraising or board development, this call is for you. If you don't know what to do with board members who don't do anything, this call is for you. And if you're self-funding and you don't know how to get your board members to help, this call is for you. So why am I doing this? Again, I'm passionate and mission-driven to help nonprofit professionals like yourself. I also know how I've been able to help others like you who are struggling with their board and fundraising. I know I can help you on this breakthrough call alone. And if we decide to continue to work together, that's great. If not, that's good too. The breakthrough call is by application only, and I'm only accepting 10 people at a time. And I want to make sure that it's a right fit. And so if you want to schedule a breakthrough call, here is the link for you to do so. It's I'll leave it up here just for a few seconds because it is kind of long, and maybe I should have copied and pasted that into the group, but this is the link. And now I would love to answer any questions that you have. I am going to stop the share on the screen and come back on to see if anyone has any questions. I see the chat bar is open. Let me see if there's questions. Okay, so someone said that they are new. Let me start from the top. So I feel like I'm starting from the middle. Let's start from the top. So great. Oh, I'm so happy. I got people here from all over. This is cool. El Paso, California, Michigan. So that's good. New York. So someone asked, will the PowerPoint be available? The PowerPoint, I will send this out as a replay so that you have it, but not the actual PowerPoint. And so someone said they are new to development and have not had board support so far, which I completely understand. I hope that after this presentation that is giving you some ideas around that. And someone said, what is a capital campaign? So a capital campaign is when you are raising money to build a building or to renovate a building that you have. And so we raised $12 million to build a 32,000 square foot youth facility. And so that's a capital campaign. So do you, here's another question here. Do thank you needs to be personally written, or is it a template, fill in the blank note acceptable? So this is what I say. I say people don't send out handwritten notes anymore. So anytime you send out a handwritten note, you're going to set yourself apart. But what that really, you still provide a template for your board members, and then they can transfer that into their handwriting. And that's the easiest way to do it. And someone said, how does a house party look virtually? So this is cool. I love this because house parties are one of my favorite. House parties, it looks like virtually is you get people in on a Zoom just like this, and you have a host. And so let's say I'm the host and we're at a house party right now. I would come on, I would thank you for being a part of this event. And I would tell you why I support this organization. And then I would turn it over to the CEO of the organization. So then that they share a little bit of information about the organization, a little bit of overview on the organization really quickly. And then I would then turn it over to a client who would provide a testimonial of how they benefited from the service, right? And that's when you really connect them emotionally. So hopefully you have someone that really can connect emotionally and tell a great story, because storytelling needs to have emotion and conflict. Before I started coming to this program, this was me. And then after this program, this is how it transformed my life. Even if it's a pet or a pet, right? Or an animal, if you run an animal shelter, you can still have that client testimonial, because you can have a staff come on and say, hey, this is, my dog's name is Gizmo. Hey, this is Gizmo. And Gizmo was founded, abandoned, and he came in with a lot of fleas and ticks, and you can show a video of Gizmo as he was when he was found. And then you can talk about, now this is Gizmo today, and this is his adoptive parent, here, and he has a lovely life and what have you. So that testimonial part is probably one of the most key parts to the house party. And then after that, you have a board member come on. I say preferably a board member, but if not, again, the board members lend their credibility because they're in the process. It would be the CEO that comes on and makes the ask that says, we want to continue to provide these types of services to the community, and you can help us today. You can be that hero that will save Gizmo or will save a child like such and such. And you drop the link in the chat and you ask people to give. And that's how the virtual house party looks. Really simple. And I love it. It's easy. So am I right that we're missing number 5? I don't know. Sometimes we may be. My counting might be off. So I'll go back and look at that. Somebody said, I thought it was me. And they look at, somebody said, oh, good. Maybe I didn't miss it. Number 5 was gift grants from board members, business that support employee volunteers. So thank you for answering that. And Carolyn says 1 number is missing. So I'll go back and I'll look at that. So are there any other questions at this time for me? And if not, as promised, I am going to go and get the documents that I promised you. Give me a second because I'm almost up at my hour, and I do apologize for that. I do like to be truthful when I say no more than an hour, and I'm right at the top of the hour. So I am going to go into files, and what I'm going to do is I am going to upload the files. So let's do that from my computer. From your computer, and the file that I am going to upload for you, just so you know what you're getting and that I actually kept my promise here, is going to be, and if you have any questions on these files or need clarification, as you see, sometimes I might skip a number or I skip some information in there, just let me know. Let's see. So what I'm giving you today is going to be a simple, what I'm giving you today is an ebook on 24 simple and easy virtual events that you can do. I told you I was going to provide you with a checklist. So that's that checklist. And then, it's in the chat so you can download it. So go ahead and start downloading those right now. And I'm also going to give you the phone-a-thon manual sample template, which you have right now. It's loaded there. And I'm also going to give you a board agreement. I'm actually going to give you 2 templates for the board agreement. You can pick and choose which one you want to use. One is called a commitment form, and the other one is going to be called a board expectation form. So I will leave this up here. And then, yes, so someone asked, would fundraising training be available during the breakthrough call? We will talk about fundraising during that breakthrough call. If that is your number 1 challenge, we will talk about some strategies around fundraising. So the links, Monica, are actually, the documents are in the chat. Themselves, they're not links, they're actual documents. So you can download the documents. Does everybody see the documents? They are in the chat. So if you don't see the documents, I have saved the chat here. And what I will do is email them to you if that is better, because people saying yes, 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 but I have a couple people that are saying no. So what I'll do is, as a follow-up to everybody that's on this call, I will email you the documents as an attachment. So that way we'll 100% sure know that everybody got them. So thank you guys for your time and for everything. So that is it for me. I went 3 minutes over. I hate when I go over, but I did go 3 minutes over. And thank you for letting me know that there's no number 5 there, or I'll go back and look at the numbering on that. So thank y'all very much. If you have any questions of me of any of these, like maybe how-tos, or if I have more information I can support you on, just let me know. And with that, I will say bye-bye. Thank y'all. Y'all have a blessed one. Bye-bye.